Hey everyone.
Greetings. We're coming to you live from the Buxton Landstreet Copeton Gallery. We're here to talk about our show, Appalachian Extraction. I'm Ernie Roby-Tomic.
And I'm Printz. Okay, yeah, I guess we start. I'm a painter. I'm a PhD candidate in Appalachian art. Ernie?
I work in art and technology. I do a lot of different things, mostly with game engines and 3D modeling and things of that nature, electronics.
Yeah, so now we are going to walk you through the process of our residency, which included a mural and also this exhibition that we're standing in now. All right, so this is Buxton and Landstreet Gallery, which was originally a coal company's store for Copeton mine, which we will get into as this slideshow progresses. Were you advancing? So, starting with the mural. So in the 19th century, around 1892, we did a little bit of research on Carrie Williams, who was a school teacher here at the Copeton Colored School, which was a segregated school. And Tucker County, which is the county that Thomas, West Virginia is a part of, made a ruling that Black teachers would get paid half as much as white teachers, and that Black school children would attend half of a year of school as opposed to a full year for white children. So knowing this information, basically Carrie Williams, who was the school teacher, sued the state of West Virginia to get equal rights for Black teachers and Black students. Her lawyer was J.R. Clifford, who is was the first Black attorney in West Virginia, but also basically was part of the Niagara movement and a bunch of early civil rights. So this case was a pretty landmark case for the time. So in this mural, as you can see, Carrie is the star, and then in the background is Copeton, where the mine was, as well as some representations of her students. So another view of the mural with the lift that we used to paint it.
The infamous lift.
Yes. And the mural is visible from Blackwater Canyon Trail. And I forgot to mention Friends of Blackwater, which is also located in this building. They provided us with a lot of source material to build this mural. And there's the mural from the trail. Another shot. And this is our show card for Appalachian Extraction, which obviously is happening now, but it will be going on until the 7th of November. And just a little bit of background before Ernie talks about his end of the project. Well, I'm going to talk for a minute, but so I did a show 2 years ago called Appalachian Spring, which used WPA photos from the 1930s and 40s. And that first basically led me to putting mining lights in my paintings. And this first light was actually used in a coal mine. So it has this kind of residual history element placed with a National Geographic photo from 1938. And then Ernie did a project as his senior thesis at the University of Florida involving the Sago mine, which he will talk more about. So the two of us kind of, as longtime friends, came together with these two extraction-based projects to create what we're working on now. And so this was my painting space in Buxton and Landstreet Gallery, and also where Ernie worked as well on all of the programming for the installation and the mining lights. And these are two of the photos that I used for two of the 6 miners, one of which I own the original of, and the other is from the West Virginia archives, just so we could represent people of color that were also working in the mines. And then this is a few of the paintings in process, another process photo. And then further along in the process, and I wanted to mention, so there's 3 colors used in every one of the paintings, and they're all representative of colors that are derivative of coal production. So coal under a microscope is actually a dark purple color, even though it appears to be black. So back in the 19th and early 20th century, they used coal residue as a dye, which is aniline dye, and it was a purple dye. So that's where the purple comes from. The orange is representative of slag, which is a byproduct of coal that's dumped in West Virginia rivers and Appalachian rivers. And also the green is a byproduct of nuclear powered coal. And then these are all the guys together before they had their mining lights installed and were installed in the gallery.
Shout out to Larry, who painted the gallery this nice kind of charcoal black color for our installation. He did a really great job. So as Ellie talked about, she made these paintings, and starting from the Appalachian Spring painting she showed earlier of installing these mining lights, we kind of wanted to take that same idea and run with it, but installing another component to them. So I helped Allie with her paintings, basically retrofitting all of those mining lights with a programmable, what's called an RGB LED, which is a light that can mix colors together so that we could continue that thread throughout the work of the use of color. So this is an Arduino microcontroller, very familiar thing to people who prototype electronics. So I was working on this part of the project. And there you see we've taken all of these mining lights that came from original lights that were used during mining, replaced the bulbs in them with the light bulb that we could control using the microcontroller, did a lot of soldering and programming to make them change color and fade in and out in the installation. We'll show how that what that looks like here in just a bit. And then they're actually mounted onto the paintings, which is an interesting problem to put a very heavy object on the front of a canvas. But here are some shots of the paintings near their completed form. In the galleries, we were lining them up to install the lights. And here is finally the end product from the painting, from the photograph, excuse me, to the painting, and then the light finally being installed. And as you see, we've got this one with a sort of green hue mixed in it, and it in the installation turns on and off throughout time. And then there's a second component to the installation, which is a little bit more in my wheelhouse, and it comes very inspired from coal mining disasters in general in Appalachia, but in particular the Sago mine disaster in 2006, where 12 miners suffocated underground after a methane explosion trapped them. And this was a note from Martin J. Toller that says, "Tell all I'll see them on the other side. It wasn't that bad. I just went to sleep. I love you." And when I first saw this artifact, it impacted me so heavily. And I was really kind of interested in this phenomenon of miners who get trapped underground and asphyxiate from carbon monoxide. It's very common in these kind of accidents. And the experience is described as something akin to falling asleep and basically hallucinations and things like that. And I was doing some work on sort of oriented towards sleep science at the time. So this really caught my attention. And then also biographically, I grew up in sort of mid-central West Virginia. So through school and my technical training with 3D modeling, I learned how to basically rip landscape out of Google Earth, their GIS data, and use those models in several different ways, digital fabrication projects, game engines, and those sorts of things. So the 3D geometry that's actually used in this project is a rip from the Sago mine area. Then the whole sort of twist of this project is, as I learned more about the Sago mine disaster in the following litigation with the coal mines, the coal companies, excuse me, they sort of blame the explosion on a poplar tree, which was struck by lightning about 2 miles from the mine. And this really read to me as like a sort of modern mythology, like a Greek story, something very fanciful. It's so outlandish to pin this disaster on what they called an act of God. So I wanted to push this environment into a sort of mythological prose. And one of the things that I wanted to do with it was to sort of transform the human miner into a worker ant as a sort of commentary on the way that the companies view workers that they employ as expendable, or as just drones that work for them. That's the way that I see that companies look at their workers. So I wanted to show just sort of some of this kind of crazy technical process that goes on. This is some of the geometry. So this is the actual 3D information. The yellow things there in the foreground are some of the ants, there are 12 of them, each representing one of the miners who died there in the Sago mine. And then up there above at the top, the thing jutting out from the ceiling is actually a yellow poplar tree model for which they tried to pin this disaster on. And then this next layer that you're seeing is sort of after the geometry. I then actually, this texture is actually taken from a culvert. It's a photograph that I took here near Buxton and Landstreet and used it as a texture for the inside of the mine. So I do some basically skinning of the models, adding these layers of color and things on top of the geometry. And then with lighting effects and quite a bit more crunching of artistic reflexes, we end up with this sort of final product of a kind of psychedelic inside of a mine. And I implemented the same coloring palette that Ali used in her paintings. This project is a project that I had built previously, but for this exhibition, I completely reworked it, building it sort of from the ground up once again. And along with the installation, there's a sound, this sort of in and out, a breathing in and then a low rumble out that's present in the space. And that is actually the sound of me playing a sousaphone. And this seems maybe unrelated at first, but I really connect this to, I don't know if they can hear it very well. Sorry. I sort of connect this to, I grew up in a coal mining community, and my father, worked for the coal companies as a train engineer. But I myself, diverted from that path through art and music. And one thing that I really took with me about this whole problem of working underground and being asphyxiated was the issue of breath. And I think we can all kind of reflect on that for the moment with the COVID-19 crisis that's going on as well, thinking about our breathing. So something that's very essential to performing this instrument is a heavy set of lungs and good breath and healthy lungs. And with black lung and these disasters with asphyxiation, this became relevant to me that, I sort of work on this subject matter, and I wanted to integrate this sort of passion of mine into the work relating to breath. And then that's actually the presentation for the exhibition. We're gonna show what's gonna happen in the next few minutes. I also wanted to present a set of disaster ballad songs. So these songs are all written around these disasters that have happened in the region. I have 4 songs for you. I'm going to play guitar and sing along and present these to you. We have Coal Tattoo by Billy Ed Wheeler, Fire in the Hole by Hazel Dickens, Mannington Mine, and West Virginia Mining Disaster by Gene Ritchie. And then we'll follow that with a Q&A, and we have a sort of video preview of the space to give all of you out there in the internet an idea of what this looks like. And then the following week, we actually will have a fully 3D explorable representation of the whole exhibition, where you can get up close and personal with the paintings, because the video is pretty dark, as the installation itself is pretty dark. So bear with us for just a moment while we get set up for me to play some music for you. Be right back. We're just gonna stay right here.
Okay.
I'll just go. Make sure I'm in the right spot here.
Yeah.
Good. All right, here we go. This is First Cold Tattoo by Billy Ed Wheeler. He was a playwright here in West Virginia who wrote this song about a man who was struck in the head while working in the coal mine. Excuse me. Capo. It's always fun to do a false start. Traveling down that coal town road, listen to my rubber tires whine. It's goodbye to Buckeyes and whites to go home. I'm leaving you behind. I've been a coal miner all of my life, laying down track in the hole. Got back like an ironwood bent by the wind. Blood veins as blue as the coal. Blood veins as blue as the coal. Somebody said that's a strange tattoo you got on the side of your head. I said that's a blueprint left by the coal, a little more than I've been dead. Well, I love the rumble and I love the dark, I love the cool of the slate. And it's on down the new road looking for a job. This traveling and looking I hate. Traveling, looking I hate. I stood for the union, I walked in the line, fought against the company. I stood for the UNWLA, now who's gonna stand by me? I got no house and I got no job, I just got this worried soul. Had a blue tattoo on the side of my head, left by the number 9 code. Left by the number 9 code. Someday when I'm dead and gone to heaven, the land of my dreams, I won't have to worry on losing my job. The bad times a big machine. I ain't gonna pay my money away on to the hospital plan. I'm gonna dig coal till the blue heavens roll. Sing with the angel band. Sing with the angel band. Thank you. Oh, I love that song. It's so good. that line, I love the rumble and I love the dark. It's good stuff. Okay, so next I'm going to do, this is kind of a shorter one by Hazel Dickens. And it's a little different. This one's not necessarily a disaster ballad, but it is a protest song that was written around mines down in Mingo. So here it goes. This is called Fire in the Hole. Tell them in the country, tell them in the town, the miners down in Mingo, lay the shovels down. We won't pull another pillow, load another ton, or lift another finger till the union we have won. Stand up, boys, let the bosses know. Turn your buckets over, turn your lanterns low. There's fire in our hearts and fire in our soul, but there ain't gonna be no fire in the hole. Daddy died a miner, and Grandpa he did too. I bet this coal will kill me before my working days is through. And a hole is dark and dirty, and all the grave are fine. I plan to make a union for the ones I leave behind. So stand up, boys, let the bosses know. Turn your buckets over, turn your lanterns low. There's fire in our hearts and fire in our soul, but there ain't gonna be no fire in the hole. Stand up, boys, let the bosses know. Turn your buckets over, turn your lanterns low. There's fire in our hearts and fire in our soul, but there ain't gonna be no fire in the hole. No, there ain't gonna over into buckets. Caps. All right. There's another Hazel Dickens, a little more relevant to the mine disasters. I'm going to get just a little bit of fresh breath. All right, we're good. It does get a little hot in here. All right. This is called Mannington Mine. We read in the paper and the radio tell us to raise our children to be miners as well. Tell them how safe those mines are today. Like your daddy, bring home the big day. Don't you believe in my boys, that story's a lie. Remember the disaster at the Mannington Mine. 78 miners were buried alive. Because of unsafe conditions, your daddy died. They lure us with money, it sure is a sight. We may never live to see the daylight. With your name on the big headline, like that awful disaster at the Mannington Mine. 78 good men were buried alive. Because of unsafe conditions, your daddy died. There's a man in a big house way up on the hill. Far, far from the shacks where the poor miners live. He's got plenty of money, Lord, everything's fine. And he has forgotten the Mannington Mine. Yes, he has forgotten the Mannington Mine. There's a grave way down in the Mannington Mine. There's a grave way down in the Mannington Mine. Oh, what were their last thoughts? What were their cries? As the flames overtook them in the Mannington Mine. So don't you believe them, my boy, that story's a lie. Remember the disaster at the Mannington Mine. How could God forgive you? You do know what you've done. You killed my husband, now you want my son. Thank you. So these songs are really, if you've ever read Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451, not to spoil the ending, spoiler alert, not really though. The character meets some folks at the railroad tracks at the end of the book, and they've all dedicated themselves to memorizing books. And so they become named after all these books. And they know every word of every page. And I was thinking about that and decided that I wanted to become that for these disaster ballads. So it's a part of our cultural fabric, of Appalachia, to know some of these songs. And You'll notice that this set list and my preference is towards some of these women who are writing these songs, and they're really fascinating because there are so many of these disaster ballads following any number of incidents that have happened around the world, really, but they all kind of center around masculinity and still getting the job done, going back to the mines, you know, all of that kind of thing. And I love the Hazel Dickens songs, and I love the Gene Ritchie songs because they bring in this feminist element of like, well, what about, you know, your loved ones and your community? Like, you know, kind of superseding what the coal company wants you to do with your life and saying, you know, no, we're also people, and we need to remember our family and remember each other. So this last one here I'm going to sing for you is Gene Ritchie's West Virginia mining disaster. It is a cappella. So. Ooh, oh, yeah, that happened earlier. My pen and my guitar came out for the first time in like 5 years this week. All right, so we'll do it with that. Oh, say, can you see him? It was early this morning. He walked by your houses on his way to the coal. He was tall, he was slender, and his dark eyes so tender. His occupation was mining, West Virginia, his home. It was just before noon, I was feeding the children. Then Mosley came running to give us the news. Number 8 is all flooded, many men are in danger. We don't know their number, but we fear they're all doomed. So I picked up the baby and I left for the others, to comfort each other and to pray for their own. There's Tommy, 14, and there's John, not much younger. And soon their time will be coming to go down the black hole. And I wish that I had the money to do more than just feed them, to give on good learning the best could be found. So when they growed up, they'd be checkers and weighers, not have to spend their whole life in the dark underground. And it's what will I say to his poor little children? And it's what will I say to his dear mother at home? And it's what will I say to my heart that's clear broken? My heart that's clear broken, now my darling is gone. Say, did you see him? It was early this morning. He passed by your houses on his way to the coal. He was tall, he was slender, and his dark eyes so tender. His occupation was mining, West Virginia his own. Thank you. Thank you, everyone here at the exhibition. Thank you, everybody out there in internet land. We are going to spend a few minutes seeing if there are any questions first online. If anybody has anything, you can drop it in the chat, or at this time you can actually also unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question. While that's happening, I'm going to put on a video of the exhibit. It is a very dark exhibit, literally. So the video is not going to be all revealing for you, but you can take a look and maybe you have some questions there too once you see what's going on here. So I'll put this on. Actually, am I doing this right? 1 second. Let me do something here.
Good thing you know electronic things.
Oh yeah.
I sure don't.
Where is it? Why am I not seeing it?
There he is.
I mean, that's the.
Let me check out here.
Hang on a second. We're running into a small issue here. Oh no, I lost it. That's even worse. Gotta love technology. Here we are. Now let me make sure. I don't know. It's not popping up on. Okay, we're just going to have to share the entire screen. I don't know why it's not showing up.
It's okay. We can just have ourselves in there or not. That's it, right?
It is. but I was trying to, there we go.
There
I was
we
trying
go.
to make sure I could see.
Let me see if it's out here.
Gotcha. Okay. So there you've got some video of it going. And I'm going to open up the chat. Doesn't look like we have anything there. So I'm going to open it up. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, you can do that. And if there's no questions out there, then we might field some questions here in the room with us. But I'll give you just a minute to pipe in.
Yeah, and if no one has any, that's cool too.
Yeah.
We can just, should we turn the tuba on?
Oh yeah, I don't know how that comes across.
So there, the tuba that Ernie was talking about, we turned off for this webinar, but we're turning it back on so you can just hear the like kind of breathing.
Very, very low frequency.
It's low frequency, but it's mimicking this like suffocating breathing of being cut off. And as he mentioned before, it runs for 30 minutes, which is the duration that the miners suffocated in the Sago mine.
Hoping people are able to.
I
They
think
should
can
be able
hear it.
to.
I think they should.
Okay. Well, I don't see anything in the chat either, so I think we're good there. So let's field the room. Anybody have?
When you display these paintings, is it between the dark room on purpose?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's supposed to mimic a coal mine. But if we turn this light that's on up here off, then you can't see the paintings at all because the LED lights are so kind of like lower. So we have this on just so people can orient themselves and also be able to see the paintings.
Yeah.
But it's a lot darker when the door's shut and all that good stuff too. So.
And where is this located?
This is it's you know the information, because with models you have all this like metadata and stuff that's going on. The information, the geometry comes from the Sago mine area. So it's actually GIS, like they fly an airplane. Google or some other company will fly an airplane over and do a LiDAR scan of the topography. And it turns out, I discovered a few years, but I was looking around Google Earth, and I was of course looking around West Virginia because I grew up here. And I noticed how finely detailed their 3D modeling was. If you compare it to other regions, it's much finer detail over in this region. And I think the reason is they probably subcontract that data out to the companies and stuff.
Ironically, if I could interject, a
Yeah.
lot of that was done by Canadian Institute when they were here
Right.
in this building and they had a LiDAR.
Yeah. Yeah, so I imagine Google probably subcontracts, you know, people who do this stuff, or they have their own. But I took it from their server, from Google's server. Yeah. So what you're seeing is like pieces of information from that, but I've done my artistic thing, and
Yeah, and there's a press release outside too.
Yeah, there's more
that explains more information
A copy
about everything together as a whole, which obviously you can take a copy of too. And there's more information about us individually as artists and all that good stuff. So. Oh yeah, there's also a mural on the back of the building about Carrie Williams for those of you that are joining us a little bit later. I know it's raining now, but you can check it out at any time you'd like. It's permanent, obviously, now on there. And there will be a recording of this that we'll post, and also Ernie is working on a 3D rendering of the exhibition so people can look at it online, which will be posted on social media when that's ready to go. And that will live forever, so people can look at it indefinitely, and it's like a permanent part of each of our bodies of works.
it's just accessible through a browser on your phone, on a computer.
Yeah, it works on a phone, which is great.
Yeah.
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 Here, I know that you were in the co-governance and taking photographs.
Yep.
And down in Blackwater Canyon is some columns that
Right.
Is that incorporated in this? Because it kind of looks.
Right.
So the culverts down there just busy.
Yes, I agree. I took a lot of photos of them. I'm kind of in love with old culverts and stuff. So I was kind of getting up in there. And then I was looking at, the texture on them. I also work professionally outside of my art career in like VR and game development and stuff. So anytime I'm out in the world and I see a texture that's like, ooh, that'll be nice, I collect it and I bring it back. So, you know, this here, the texture up here, actually the culvert, the photograph of the culvert is exactly this right here. It's like this kind of texture you see.
Yeah.
So it takes a little explaining of like how computer graphics work, but the geometry, which is what we call the 3D model, you know, that is basically just a flat surface made out of thousands of triangles. But then on that surface, you can place textures. I mean, I can make it look like a soccer ball or something, but you know, whatever you want to put on it. So the geometry is say line information, and then the texture comes from that culvert texture that I was just kind of grabbed by. I can do something like this last year.
Well, it makes me very happy that we did it.
It's fun to incorporate, you know. I love one of the things I love about doing these kind of digital installations is I can go out into nature and collect things without actually disturbing anything. Take photos and then bring them into the work digitally and not have to, you know, mess with anything real. It's a fun way to go on a hike too, to keep your eyes out for fun textures.
Yeah, 10-mile hike at that.
Yeah, we walk 10 miles a day. Anything else?
Well,
I get it.
Yeah, any more questions?
Well, I just want to thank both of you on behalf of Vandalia Heritage Foundation and the Buxton Landstreet Gallery. This is moving, and the way y'all combined it, all media. My folks grew up lived about 15 miles from where mine was after my dad heard and felt the explosion.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually out of town flying back New Year's Day to the dad was former employee of mine's husband was the youngest miner to die. He also left a very moving mother. And I'm in touch with her at some point. But anyway, I want to thank y'all for monumental effort into it. I think it's spectacular. I especially appreciate the extra effort of getting it online in this COVID era.
It's very important.
And we can hopefully reach out to more people even after this event. I'm sure, because it's really worth sharing. The paintings are exquisite out as always. Ernie, your components can break, so I just want to applaud you guys for a fantastic job.
Thank you for giving us the ability to do it. And again, all this stuff will be available. We'll make it available online, and there will be a future webinar about Carrie Williams and the mural to come. So thank you all for listening, and have a good rest of your day, evening.
There's wine downstairs.
Okay.
Try not to have
Bye.